Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. I normally don't talk about this, but it's something that happened to me, and at this point, it sounds like it might be a fishing expedition gone bad, but it's much worse than that. It's much scarier and more alien than that. It's downright creepy, and I'm fortunate to be alive. Other people have, I think, gone missing and never been found. And I didn't know this. I didn't know this was real. I had a story when I was a child from my grandfather, and he told me about this thing. It's called the Windigo. And the Windigo is a mythical Norse creature, a very scary creature. And my grandfather escaped it. Most people, if you see a Windigo, there are very few documented sightings, because if you see a Windigo, you usually die. It looks at you and it somehow manipulates time, and it takes your soul and it sucks it out of you, but it takes a long time to do that. And it has to make eye contact with you in order to do that. But if it does, if the Wendigo sees you and you see the Wendigo, it's taking your soul. People, be afraid. And I'm going to tell you my story and why I'm just so happy to be alive right now. And I was out in one of my favorite places on earth, in a far corner of Lake Cabotogama. And I love, hold on. And basically, this far corner of Lake Cabotogama it's a part of the Cabotogama Peninsula, and it's a remote area. It's a place where you can go and you can be there all day, or at certain times of year you could be there for 3 or 4 days, 5 days. You might not see another person in this place. It's remote, it's isolated, and you're alone. And that's one of the reasons I like it. I like other people. I just want them to fish somewhere else, not where I am. But it is also almost my downfall and death. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because of where I went and the signs that I didn't watch for these signs. I didn't know to watch for them, to be honest. But when I sensed something was wrong, it was too late, and I should have gotten out earlier. And I'm just lucky to be alive. There's a fluke thing happened to save my life, and so I'm going to describe it to you. But I was on this place. It's a place I like to fish, like I said, out in the far corner of Lake Cabotogama, near the Cab Peninsula. And I have a couple spots I like to hit out there for walleye. And so I'd gone out fishing, and it was just me. Usually I'm there. If I'm there, I'm with someone else. But it was just me, and I was happy to be there. But the fish weren't biting in my spots. And so I thought, I'll move down the shoreline, and I'm gonna try a new spot and try something new. I looked at my watch, or I looked at the time on my phone, and it was 4:30, and I wanted to be, for prime time. I wanted to get back in this one spot because I'm pretty sure the fish will move up into the shallows in that area. They just weren't there yet. It was a little early, and so I decided to head out and kind of work this edge and a deeper edge towards this corner in the bay. And I happened to be going towards, if you're on Cabotogama, it's campsite K35 in Voyageurs National Park. And like I said, Voyageurs National Park is a remote area, but especially that part of the lake, it's just out of the way, and and I love it. But anyway, I'm going towards K35. That's my decision. And so I drop the trolling motor down. I start heading out, and I take about 7, no more than 8 casts, and I hook a fish, and it's things are looking good. It's a decent smallmouth. It's not huge. It's a 17.5 incher. I get it, and I unhook it. It's uneventful except that I take a photo of me with the fish, and I happen to look at the time when I take the photo, and it's 6:30, and I'm like, well, it's 6:30. How did it get to be 6:30? I must have got the time wrong, because I've only taken 7 or 8 casts, and I haven't gone very far. I've gone a little ways towards that corner, but it's I haven't gone that far. It's I couldn't have missed 2 hours, could I? And I must have just messed up. I must have messed up the time. So I released the fish, and I decide I'm gonna head on and continue down the shoreline towards that corner and work that deep edge line. And I hear some crashing, and no, this is not out of the normal in this part of the lake. Several times I've heard loud crashing noises through the woods, like as something's running through the woods, and I've always assumed it was a bear or a moose, and it probably is. That's probably what it is. It's probably one of those two. I don't know why I think it's them, but I know it's a large animal, and it seems to get startled by my presence, and then it runs, and it crashes into things, and I can hear not small, but larger sized trees falling over, and larger branches cracking. When I say larger, I mean obviously it's not like an 8-inch tree, but I can hear trees falling, like this, I guess, the smaller trees and the larger branches. It's not just twigs out there breaking. I mean, this thing is full on running anyway, and that alone is kind of creepy. I know I've been there with Bonnie, my wife, and she didn't like it at all. It freaked her out. In fact, it freaked her out for days. Even the next time we went on a hike, I don't think she was at all comfortable in the woods in that area ever again, really. And it is a little spooky how fast it can move. But I still assume it could be a moose, maybe. I don't think that was the Windigo. I didn't at the time. Now I might, if I hear a crashing like that, I'm more than likely just going to leave because of what happens to me, which we'll get to. Sorry, but anyway, so that's kind of the history of this spot at campsite K35. And if you look on the map, you'll see campsite K35. And so I'm continuing to go down. I'm going to fish this corner and this deep edge, and I take my next cast, and I decide to cast parallel to the shoreline, kind of down that line, and I instantly hook a rock. Like as soon as my line hits bottom, I'm on a rock, and I cast it way out there, and I'm kind of annoyed because it's a long. I couldn't, and I'm not even close to the boat, and so now I'm, it is. I should have mentioned, it is a nice day. 72 degrees, very light breeze, mostly sunny, just a gorgeous day. So I'm gonna continue down and just get my line off the bottom now. No big deal. So I head down, and as I'm going closer and closer to the rock where I'm hooked up, it's getting darker. The trolling motor is not that fast, but by the time I get there, the sun has set, and I look at my phone, and it says 9 o'clock, and the sun's gone down, and I'm like, my gosh, this time I know I did not get the time wrong, because it was only one cast, and all I did was go up to try to get my line loose from the bottom. And so it got dark fast, and that was weird. And I decide, well, there's still enough time there's still enough time. I can still at least fish this corner. I'm going to miss my prime time in the other spots, but I don't like being on Lake Cabotogama at night. It's not a safe lake to travel in the dark because there's so many rocks that are just skimming under the surface. It's not well marked. You could run into things, and I just don't like being out there at night, so I usually don't do that. Other lakes I don't have a problem doing it, but I don't do it there. So anyway, I decide I still got enough time for a couple casts while there's still twilight, and then I'll get back to the cabin. And so I go to continue, and I don't go like another 20 yards, and the trolling motor just goes from going normal speed to half speed to dead. I mean dead. It's just brrr, and as it dies, the light goes out. It is amazing how fast it got dark on me, and I'm getting creeped out now, and there's not crashing or anything anymore. It's basically quiet, but it's chilling, and I've got these hairs on the back of my neck that are standing up, and I'm like, I'm getting out of here. This is weird and creepy, and very creepy and weird. And so I'm going to start up the boat, and it just click, 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 click. The boat won't start. And it's just like the starter won't engage. I think, my battery is not only dead on my trolling motor now, that was completely dead, but now my battery can't start my boat. And I'm drifting. I have a paddle, but I'm drifting. Fortunately, the wind is blowing me right in to K35. So there's a dock there. And so I drift up to K35, and I don't have a phone signal on the lake, but I know I've seen campsite K35, and it's a slightly elevated, and I know if I got up there I might have a better chance of getting a text to go through or something, getting someone to help me. And so I get the boat, on the dock, and I go up to the top, and it's, by the way, now it is getting very dark now. I can make out some things, but it is pitch black just about. And but my phone has some light, and I'm walking up the trail, and I walk right by the sign. It says K35 Windigo, and I'm like, Windigo? This is the Windigo campsite. And it just, again, I get these chills, and my senses are telling me I got this kind of a sick feeling in the gut pit of my stomach. It's like someone punched me in the gut, and I'm like, this isn't where I want to be. I got to get out of here. But I still go up to the top because I need to try to get a text to go through. I mean, I'm dead in the water. And I get up to the top. It's a nice campsite. It's got a fire ring, picnic table. I mean, I get up there, and I stand on the table, so I'm even higher up in the air, and I go to hold my phone up and see if I get a signal, and I notice that the year on my phone, and this really just tops it off, and it explains a lot of things that have happened here before, but it says January 11th, 2001, and that creeps me out even more, and I've seen that before in that area. I've seen phones get reset by 20 years like that. I've been with at least 3 different people who have had that happen to them. It's never happened to me before, though, and so my phone is now on the wrong year, and I don't know what happened, but when I look back at my phone after looking at the date, and I go to make my text, my phone battery dies, and so now it's dead. And so now I'm out there, and it's even darker, and I decide, I'm not really liking where I am here, but there's a chance that I could get back down to the boat, and the battery on the boat might have enough charge in it to charge my phone. It couldn't engage and start my motor, but it might be able to have enough charge to run my phone. And so I go down there, and I walk back down the path, and I get in the boat. I find I've got these clips. I hook it up to the battery. Lo and behold, it's charging. So I'm at 1%, but my phone is off, and it needs enough to reboot. And when I look at it, it says 5.5 hours or something till fully charged. And I'm like, well, I really only need like 7-8%, and I would be happy to get a text out. But so it's getting cold now. It's like the darkness has accelerated, and it's getting cold. And I don't think it's getting January 11th cold. Don't get me wrong. It's just a normal evening. It's just the years are wrong on my phone. I don't get that. But I decide I'm going to go back to the campsite while my phone's charging in the boat. I grab a blanket and I walk back to the campsite. I'm going to start a fire. And I figure when my text goes through, I can be there by the fire and be warm when someone shows up to help me. And so I walk back up. I have a beer. I bring one beer with me, my blanket, and I get the fire going. I sit down on the picnic table, and I've got the blanket wrapped around me, and I'm just soaking up some of the heat that's starting to come from the fire. And it's weird how quiet it is. I think I already mentioned that, but it's eerily quiet. Like there's no noises, and and no sooner do I crack my beer open and take like maybe one sip, and I realize I have to take a pee. And I guess out of respect, I don't know why, like I think maybe normal people would have just stayed right there and peed by the light of the fire. But I felt like it was rude or disrespectful to pee right there, where everybody's going to be walking around. So I decided to step off the edge a little bit into the edge of the woods and pee out there. And so my back is now facing the fire. And as I step out there, I realize just how quiet it really is. I mean, there's this light breeze and the leaves are moving, but they aren't making any noise. And I mean, I'm at K35 and the sign says Windigo, right? I mean, did I mention that part? When I'm walking up there, I read the sign K35 Windigo, and now everything is quiet, and it's like the forest itself is afraid of the Windigo, and it's trying to be quiet. It like nature knows that through the manipulation of time, it can kill the trees, and the leaves know it, and they don't want the Windigo by them. Somehow nature senses it. I don't want it by me. And again, I'm freaking out now. I'm thinking about this, and I go back into the campsite. And when I'm walking back, I go by the sign again, K35 Windigo. And I get back up to where I can see the fire, and I'm like, oh my God, my fire's almost out. It's burned all the way down to just having just like one small log left. And it's just eerie how even just the fire from that one log is the loudest thing in the forest. It's so quiet that everything is amplified and loud, and that fire is so loud that I start to be afraid that the Windigo is going to come for me. And so I take what's remaining of my beer, which is almost the whole thing, and I pour it on the log, and it's like and steams off, and it goes out. Fire goes out, which is good. But now it's dark, and somehow during that pee, so I lose my light from the fire, but I gained moonlight, and so now I have moonlight, and I can see a little bit, and I'm sitting there thinking of what I should do. I'm thinking I'll go back to the boat, and I hear this it's like metal on metal. It's not an animal screaming. It's more like metal on metal. And I kind of go a little faster, but it's in the direction I need to go. And so I'm creeping pretty quiet. I don't see anything on the path in the moonlight, so I keep going. And it's just enough light I can see the sign again as I walk by, and I see 3 gouges now in the Windigo sign. It's almost like they're highlighting the word Windigo, and I'm totally freaked. I'm not gonna lie. I'm freaked. Heart's racing. I'm sweating and it's cold. It's not a big sweat, but it's weird, and I got to get out of there, and I'm freaking. And so I go back down, and I think, maybe since if time accelerated somehow, maybe my phone charged faster, right? So I go down, and I get to my phone, like it's only been a couple minutes, but I look, and it worked. My phone's at 100%. And in reality, it's probably, I don't know how long it's been. It's been a while, right? But my phone is charged, and I don't want to go back up the hill because I heard dare I say, the monster. I heard it's up there. I don't want to be there. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I decide to start my phone up. At least I'll have the light from that. And I am being as quiet as a mouse. I'm not making any noise, and it's still just dead silence in the woods, which is crazy. But my phone, of course, has this T-Mobile thing on it. Ever since I got Google Fi, it plays the T-Mobile sound when it boots up, bing, 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 or whatever it is, something ridiculous. And I'm like, oh my God, it was so loud in the eerie silence that T-Mobile and that pink thing comes up. And I'm looking at the end of the dock, and I see it. It's the Windigo. And no lie, the Windigo looked at me, and I looked at the Windigo, and we made eye contact. And I was like, as soon as I looked towards it, I saw its eyes, and it saw mine. And I'm like, Windigo. I'm like, oh my God, I could not look away. And I swear the Windigo is taking my soul. And I don't know how long it was, but my phone continued to reboot. And I kind of digress here, but I've had a lot of problems with my phone continually downloading some Maroon 5 songs. And it's really been a joke, actually, in our family, like how I've come to, I hate Maroon 5. I don't like it because it keeps getting installed on my phone, and it's the weirdest thing. I remove it and it's back. It's just unbelievable. But anyway, my phone boots up, and sure as heck, it starts playing that Maroon 5 song as it continues to boot up. And I'm looking at it, and I can tell the Windigo is touching my soul. I know it is. And I hate Maroon 5. and at this point now, I have really got to tell you, I do owe Maroon 5 my life. Because what happens next is I'm looking at the Windigo. The Windigo's looking at me. I cannot look away, and Maroon 5 comes on, and the Windigo touches my soul, and it knows I cannot stand Maroon 5. And the Windigo says, I hate Maroon 5. And it breaks eye contact with me. It's unbelievable. It jumps in the water. It dives in the water. And I don't see it again. It's gone. It doesn't even make a splash. It doesn't make a noise. But I can feel that I'm whole and I'm okay. And I look at my phone, and I've got bars. And I decide I'm going to make a call. But before I make my call, my bilge pump comes on and runs for like 2 seconds, and a little water comes out, and I'm like, my gosh. And so I go to check my motor, and it starts right up. And so my motor starts and I'm out of there. There's no hesitation. I, I I'm gonna make it now, and I know it. I'm going back to the cabin, and it's dark, but I've got a little moonlight to work with, and I escaped. And some people might not believe this story, but it's what happened to me. And the crazy thing about it is, Maroon 5 saved my life. I owe them something, I guess, even if I don't like their music. I think it's terrible. A couple songs are maybe okay, but my life was saved by Maroon 5. I escaped the Windigo, and that's my story. Thank you for listening to it. I just want to add one more thing. You can verify the facts of this story. It is absolutely true. If you're ever out on Kabetogama and you're on the peninsula, don't go to K35. But if you do, go during the daylight. Bring other people with you. If your phone seems to have the time wrong, or anything strange happens with your batteries going dead, just get out of there, and get out of there fast. Don't hesitate. But while you're there, look at the sign, K35 Windigo, and that sign is still there. It hasn't been replaced yet, and you'll see the gouges. For the true experience, I guess I don't recommend it. You could stay there. I think maybe have lifelines in place somehow if you want to try something crazy like that. But I just want to warn you that the Windigo will come to that area again. I think it's the source of the loud crashing now. Now that time's gone by and I've thought about it more, it's not a safe place, and that might be why not maybe most people avoid it naturally. I was drawn to it because of my love of fishing, but it's a dangerous place to be. Beware of the Windigo.